Hello, everyone. So today's topic is going to be trying to link in with what the knowledge we have on attachment style, as well as love languages and trauma, and try to link them all together. And this is going to help explain why people have very different viewpoints on. There's a lot of things, wonderful affirmations in the world that we are met with every day about you can achieve your goals if you try hard enough. Um, how to get rid of negativity. Then you're met with the doomsayers that if you go, I do try and I haven't succeeded, and they go, you're not trying hard enough. And these people are willfully ignorant of things like intergenerational trauma, epigenetics, PTSD, and they're failing to acknowledge what you as an individual have been through, and you haven't lived the possibly silver spoon in the mouth life that they have. You tend to find a lot of people born into wealth and coming from securely attached parents have difficulty in understanding anything other than their own life. This is actually no fault of their own. This is generally the way we're wired, that our own experience tends to be a governing factor in the way that we judge other people. Of course, people coming from privilege or from just lucky enough to have grown up in a pleasant family without domestic violence or addiction issues or financial stress, some of these people are completely empathetic. They are like, some like, say, I'm really sorry you had to go through that, or I don't really understand what that would be like, and not have any trouble in communicating with you and be non-judgmental. Other people want to be up on their high horse and just go, well, that's your problem. And none of us asked to be born into families where there can be stress and difficulty. In fact, none of us have a say in our race or our gender or the country we're born in. And this is a major fault amongst people who just, whether it be racism or a lack of understanding, that these people had no say in it. They had no say in it, but they've been judged on it. And this comes back in a long roundabout way to attachment style. And some people have no problems with intimacy and hugging and holding hands. Other people can't share a bed with their partner. Even being intimate is uncomfortable. And this generally isn't a choice. Some of them will say, it's the way I was raised. It's the way I feel about it. I, in fact, met someone online, and I have a preference of being like, even though I'm probably anxious attachment, when I move into secure, I really enjoy physical touch and intimacy and deep communication. I just mentioned the phrase spooning to someone I was chatting to online. They happened to be from, it doesn't matter what country they were from, but they literally had never heard of this phrase in their life. I showed them photographs, like diagrams, and they were shocked. They were shocked that two people could just cuddle up to each other in a bed at night and sleep. To them, this was just foreign. This was like looking at aliens. And this is where the difficulty in understanding comes from. This could be a fact of how they were raised. Their parents could have slept in separate beds, and for them, that's normal, and that's your attachment style being formed. That's your learnt behavior. You're looking at mummy and daddy and you go, this is what's supposed to be normal, because you don't, not young, and look at your parents and go, well, these people have clear psychological difficulties. You aren't young enough. When you're young, you don't have an understanding of this. You just look and observe and take it in, and that's learnt behavior. So you see it every day. You see two people meet. You see people run up and hug each other and are really happy to see each other. You see people just give a nod and sit down. You see some people shake hands. Some people pat each other on the shoulder. So everyone is different. And we seem to have a lot of unwillingness to accept this, that when two people meet to form a relationship, there will be differences. And you can be lucky enough, like the secure group being the 60%, can work these things out. They might have a different love language, but generally there's no protest behavior going on where it's like if one gets angry at the other over something or doesn't like something, they talk about it. They say, I'm a little bit unhappy when you leave dishes in the sink, or I don't like it if you take a long time to return my phone call. And it's discussed, but it doesn't become an argumentative animosity type thing that some anxious attachments do in protest behavior, like, and they think, oh, had they run off with someone else, you don't love me. Oh, you're going to pick on me about clothes on the floor. What about when you do blah? And that's not healthy. Then your dismissive just doesn't particularly care either way. They're like, it just becomes too much of a hassle and is going to walk out the door and find someone else. And your fearful avoidant will ping pong between how an anxious reacts and how a dismissive reacts. So getting into the core of this video, epigenetics. So epigenetics is something that's been studied since the 60s on particularly war victims and children of people whose parents have been in war. So an example is this. If you have two babies and you take two babies down to the seaside or the ocean, one baby could be absolutely terrified of the water. They could scream, they could kick, you could walk them towards the water. They're like, don't put me in that, don't put me in that. They're not saying that, of course, but they're actioning it. And they're in extreme fear, in fact. Then you've got one little baby who's like, take me to it. You could put them in it and they could start paddling around. So therein lies a simple fact: we are not all born the same, and we don't act or react particularly to the same things in the same way. And why are those two babies different? It could be epigenetics, which is trauma passed down through the generations. In some countries, the intergenerational trauma is a very much talked about topic amongst indigenous races whose countries have been colonized. But in terms of attachment style, it's about parenting. It's about the DNA doesn't particularly change as such, but particular markers on the DNA gets highlighted. It could even be something like arachnophobia, but like phobias are literally defined as irrational behavior. There's no, I don't know why. I don't like snakes. I don't like spiders. Why? They don't know. And why? Maybe something happened to their mother. Maybe something happened to their father or further back. Then maybe there's some horrific experience, and at that point, trauma was incurred, and that marker was highlighted in that person, which was passed on to you. And this can explain why you just go, I'm terrified they will leave me, or I'm terrified they want me, more to the point. So what is it about trying to understand the avoidant personalities? For the people generally watching this channel, there's a lot of interest in recovery from an avoidant walking away, particularly fearful avoidants who will pull you close and then push you away, and you're left wondering, why would they pull me close in the first place if they didn't want me? And then maybe this will explain in a little way what's going on. They're not willfully pushing you away. They're not willfully avoiding you. A lot of it is literally the amygdala gland kicking in with the fight and flight. So it's adrenaline pumping, it's survival techniques. So that's your epigenetics, that's your DNA, that's your carried down trauma from your parents. So there has been a lot of research done on children of the parents from wars, whether it be somewhere in World War II, London, Leningrad, any of these places where there was a massive scarcity of food and shelter. So whether they were single or in a partnership is an open topic, but taking singular people in a survival situation so they can see a partner or having a partner, not like some people do where there's strength in numbers. Some of them can see that if there's a scarcity of food and they bonded with someone, that someone might take their food away. And it's born from this, that the child of that parent, the parent in the traumatized war situation is trying to survive by themselves. They're not willing to take help. They might be distrustful that a person will pretend to help and then take something away, paramount to their survival. So a lot of this avoidant behavior, in some cases, if it's long-term intergenerational trauma and epigenetics, it can just be from your prior parents. It can be from learnt behavior. But we're looking at more of a long-term, very deep-seated behavioral pattern. And so the two babies at the ocean is one example. But if you picture wartime, if you picture survival, if you just think survival, you look at the people who are scared of intimacy, who the people are like, I'm happier by myself. A lot of these people say, I don't need someone, I don't want someone, I'm happy by myself. Sometimes, not all, but some of them, if you get them alone, they will go, I would love to find someone. If I could find the right person, they would have the relationship. It's that driven fear of, would they move into a house together and lose everything? Would the person become an addict? Would there be domestic violence? Would they quit their job? Survival. It's survival you're thinking about. What happens if I have a partner? And then some of you will just go, it's too risky. The risk is too great. the price is too high. But you might go, I would love to have a partner I could talk to every day. I would love to have a partner I could share my life with. I would love to have emotional support. I would love to cuddle up at night. But you go, but what if? And what if they enter the relationship like a fearful avoidant? It goes amazingly well. They can say things to you like, I never thought I could have this. This is beyond my wildest dreams. And then one day you are gone out of their life. And that fear comes crashing down on them. It's like this, they walk out a door and they slam it shut. And you're on the other side of the door and they're going, I can't go back. If I go back, I will lose them. They will become a drain on me emotionally, energy-wise. They will go into an irrational thought. None of this could be true. You could be healthy, financially stable, have a secure job, own a house. It doesn't matter what you have. You could be a billionaire, but this fearful avoidant behavior will still shut you out and see you as a risk because it is survival. It's the same as the amazing stories you hear of people doing incredible things like jumping from buildings or running out into traffic to avoid someone chasing them and risking their lives. But it's they will just do an irrational thing at that time for their survival. So your avoidant is closing a door on probably the most amazing, perfect relationship they could have ever had, which they've already told you that you are, but they can't have it. And as much as it's painful, as much as it's difficult to understand, it is this drive which is doing it. It's like in my other videos on the runaway bride. You've got someone going, oh, I really want to be married. Yes, yes to your marriage proposal. Let me put my bridal dress on. Let me say yes. They get to the altar and they run. And this is my go-to on explaining it. And it's nothing that people are doing that the avoidant is running from. And this is the biggest problem that someone who has dated someone who's avoidant faces. You will be met with, what did you do? And you've done nothing but love the person, and they've had to run from you because of their trauma, not yours, not anyone else's. This it's extremely difficult to explain this to people. And then if you mention this to other people, if you've been with someone for years and then they close the door, or if you talk about someone you've met and they're amazing and you've got photos together, just texts in your phone that go for ages, them gushing their love for you, them sending you cards, them saying good morning, good night every day, them wanting video calls before you go to bed if you're in a distance relationship or whatever, or they're going over your place and they're staying there. They might be able to share that bed for that month or so, and then when the fear kicks in, when the marker highlights and it just goes, you've got to get out of here, you've got to get out of here. What if bombs drop? What if there's a shortage of food? Are they going to take it from you? What if they leave you and you're struggling after they've bonded with you? And this is something people can read up on, and it explains irrational behavior. And we have to look at what a lot of us do is survival, which is driven by adrenaline. It's not driven by logic. So if someone spent years with you, saying how amazing you are, and literally says yes to marriage and then runs, we know as a society that's not what we would deem as sane, rational behavior. It's not like, oh, they just changed their mind in that nanosecond. They had 2 years or 3 years to change their mind. And you haven't changed, but they changed. They changed with the genetic markers kicking in. And it's just like triggers. And we know triggers as a general term now, like a re-stimulated situation causes you to be upset or uncomfortable. And there could be nothing going on. It could be just normal days, or there could be something happen. It could even be Christmas or Easter, or maybe a war starts up in some other country. And then all this lineage comes cascading down on them. They weren't alive back in World War II, but the markers in their body have been brought down from that. It's a very interesting topic, and it's if you want to look it up, you can look up epigenetics, intergenerational trauma caught in DNA. But it's extremely relevant to this channel. It's incredibly relevant to attachment style. Whereas that much relevant to love language, it would be up for debate. But certainly attachment style, if you're looking at secure, avoidant. So you're looking at avoidant, right? Secure could be couples that came through the war and were in situations where they weren't affected by it. We're talking about trauma. We're talking about monumental, life-upsetting moments in someone's life which has scarred them emotionally and which can trigger them. And hopefully this gives you a little bit more understanding of why an avoidant might act the way they do and walk out on you. And with the horrible term of ghosting these days, in fact, recently I was reading on one forum, avoidance, using the word discarded. And now you can look at that how you want it, but it's not a particularly pleasant word, because it's more like if you had something and it doesn't work, you discard it. And they're talking about these relationships they're having with people. And literally, you can read it. I discarded my ex because I was having trouble with intimacy. I discarded my ex because we were getting too close. Now, that's helpful for us non-avoidants, that some of these people have the insight to that. They're not even victim blaming. They're not even going, they were doing this. They might be going, I was getting too close to them, so I had to pull away. And yeah, so I'll end this topic on that note. So hopefully this does help someone somewhere understand a little bit better of if an avoidance left them, it gives a little bit more insight into it. It won't help you feel better. It just might help you understand it better.